What's up guys, my name is Alex and welcome back to another video on the channel where today I'm going to be talking about Cyberpunk 2077, specifically my thoughts on the post-launch state of the game. So at the time of recording this, Cyberpunk 2077 launched about 3 to 4 days ago and it has not gone well. There are bugs and glitches all over the place if you look on Twitter, and the performance on PS4 and Xbox One is atrocious at best. The recent hotfix from CD Projekt Red has certainly helped a bit, but there is still a lot of work left to do before the game is in a proper state. I personally haven't encountered too many bugs during a brief test to make sure the game would run well with my recording software, but there are still definitely bugs here and there. I just want to say right from the get-go before we go any further that I do not blame the dev team at all. The people that were, modeling, writing the code, this is not their fault. They did the best with the time that they had, but the time they had wasn't enough. And also, anyone who is blaming people for having older hardware during this is not looking at this from the right perspective. CDPR promised that the game would run fine on PS4 and Xbox One. And if the game isn't supposed to be played on PS4 and Xbox One, why would they have released it for those consoles? The biggest issue here comes down to the executives at CD Projekt Red. They overpromised when it came to in-game features, and they overworked their employees to no end with crunch time. The review scores for console and PC are like day and night, with console reviews being absolutely scathing, with 2 out of 100 in some cases. Meanwhile, the reviews on PC are far better, with 72 out of 100 at worst, which isn't great, but it is definitely better. Um, One thing that's really bugging me in particular about the game is the amount of overpromising that I mentioned before. And there are missing features that make absolutely no sense as to why they're not in the game. For example, CDPR executives promised that multiple NPCs would have handcrafted routines and the AI for the NCPD would be more realistic. So basically, like, if you committed a crime in game, the police wouldn't know unless they saw you do it or someone told them. But instead, it's almost like GTA 5, where you can do something in the middle of the desert, and the police will just randomly show up despite having no logical explanation as to how they know that you did that. And the NPCs, I have not seen any handcrafted routines whatsoever. They just sort of go about with, my guess is, randomly generated paths doing whatever. Um, Also, here's another thing. So, Cyberpunk 2077, a big theme of the game and the entire Cyberpunk series from Cyberpunk 2013, Cyberpunk 2020, and Cyberpunk 2077 is, body modification with cyberware. You got your knife arms, you know, cyberware and all that, body modification and style and stuff. That is a big theme in the game, but there is not a single barber anywhere to be found. So if you once you make your character, that's what you're stuck with. You can't change your appearance at any later point in the game, and on top of that, with gear and stuff, you can't change the appearance of your gear. So if there's a piece of gear with really nice stats, but you don't like the way it looks, well, you gotta suck it up. My closing statement on this is really just Cyberpunk 2077 should not have had a release on PS4 and Xbox One if it was going to be this bad. I mean, they had to have known because they didn't let anyone review it on consoles. So they had to have known about this. There's no way they had no idea about this. So they knew that the game was not going to run well on PS4 and Xbox One, and yet they chose to release it on those consoles anyway, which, why would you do that? Why? Why? As for the executives, they did not use their time with this wisely enough, and they really made a lot of promises that the dev team was not able to fulfill, so they end up making the developers look bad because they made too many promises. If they had avoided overpromising and used their time wisely and just didn't release on PS4 and Xbox One, sure, a lot of people would be angry about the fact they didn't release on PS4 and Xbox One, but I'm sure if CDPR explained why, then people would be understanding, hopefully. Um, and frankly, I think Cyberpunk would have had a much smoother launch. So, to just sum everything up, the game is great, except when it isn't. But yes, so thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, leave a comment, all that stuff. Let me know if you're excited for when I start my series on Cyberpunk. We're going to be starting with the Nomad life path, and we're just going to see how it goes. So yeah, I will see you in the next video. Take care, and goodbye.